Greetings. My name is Ben, aka Downsize It, and this is going to be my response video for my first Ask Me Anything podcast. And I released the video asking you guys to submit questions last week. And for this video, I'll then go through the questions and answer them to the best of my ability. Thank you so much for all the engagement. I think I had 12 questions. I think it's 11 or 12 questions, which is more than double than what I was expecting. So thank you guys for submitting those questions. And also, I'm just going to be going through those in the order that they're submitted. No particular order, no anything like that. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first question was from our favorite Jedi Togruta herself, Ahsoka Tano. And they ask, did you order any of the new ships from Wave 10? And out of the 4 new ships, which one is your favorite? Also, what are your predictions for future waves? So, Ahsoka, to answer the first parts of those questions, no, I did not order any models in the Wave 10 release. I currently don't own anything for the Clone Wars, and there's a couple reasons for that. The first one is I have a pretty sizable collection of Imperial and Rebellion ships, and until the Venator was released, none of the Clone Wars ships really interested me. Before I'm going to invest in something, I usually go all the way when I do, so that's why I'm very careful before I invest in a game. And there was really nothing in either Clone Wars factions whether it would be lore-wise, aesthetically, etc., where I was like, man, I gotta have that. I really want it. I want to now invest in that faction. Especially the Separatists. I really don't like the Separatists. I've played them a couple times now using Robbie's and Social General Rob stuff. They're really fun to play. They're a good faction, but just lore-wise, aesthetic-wise, I'm not a big fan, so I probably will never invest in the Separatist factions. But for the Grand Republic, or Galactic Republic, I should say, I really like the Venator. So to answer the second part of your question, the Venator is easily my favorite of Wave 10. It's my favorite of all the Clone Wars stuff for now. And I do love the Jedi. I really like the Aether Sprite fighters, and I just like Jedi in general. Jedi are one of my favorite, actually it is my favorite, I guess you could say, faction or class or whatever. And whenever we were I was asking questions last month, one of them was what class or profession you would like to be, and mine would easily be Jedi. I would definitely want to be a Jedi. So I may be investing in the future in the Galactic Republic ships. It'll be a very small investment. I'm not going to go all in like I did with Imperials and Rebels. It'll just be a few ships here and there. I'm probably going to wait until individual ships and squadrons are released from the core set. Like, I wouldn't mind having an Acclimator, but I'm not a big fan of the Consular class cruisers. So it's going to be a very small collection whenever I eventually do start investing, and I'm not in any hurry right now because I have Robbie and Social General Rob and my brother-in-law Zach, who are all now getting into Armada and getting these new ships. So I'm in a fortunate position where I have 3 people I can play with those factions and borrow their stuff if need be. So sometime in the future, I'll probably give myself a couple Venators, because, you know, I love running 2 Star Destroyers. It's going to be the same thing with the Venators, especially Venator 2s. Just the super carrier capacity of the Venator 2s is amazing. You guys probably know by now, those of you who've been watching me for a while know I love squadron play, and the Venator 2 is going to be an amazing squadron carrier, and I really want to try running 2 Venator 2s and just go all in on squads. So we'll see if I can make that work in the future once more ships arrive, etc. And then for the last part of the question, my predictions for future waves, I think a very easy one, could almost be an equivocation because it's so easy. We're going to see the Lucrehulk. I would be extraordinarily surprised if they don't release Lucrehulk. I don't know if it'll be a huge ship. It probably could be a huge ship, but it would be like a small huge ship because it's not even close to being the size of an Executor class Star Destroyer. But on the table, it might actually be close to the size of the Executor class Star Destroyer. Not in lore-wise, but tabletop-wise. So it might be worth being a huge ship. Or it could just be a really large ship like the Starhawk. Be a large ship, but have a really high hull point value. I'm not sure how they're going to do it, but I almost guarantee we're going to see that. I also think we're going to see a Squadron Pack 2 for each faction. I don't know enough about the Separatist squads to see what else can fill out there, but for sure we're going to see the X2. I think that's what it's called. I think I said the name wrong, but it's the one that Anakin and Obi-Wan are flying at the start of Episode 3. We're basically the hybrid between the old Jedi fighters into TIE fighters, basically. You're going to see that hybrid there. And there's that shuttle at the end, which is like the prequel to the Lambda shuttle that Palpatine uses. And I think that they're called V-Wings that we're escorting at the very end of Episode 3, so I think we'll see those squads for sure. And I'm also pretty confident we're going to see a hybrid crossover of the Venator into Imperial. I think we might get a Grey Venator, and I also think we might get a Victory class that's a Republic, because Victories were kind of brand new, and they were fresh off the line. We didn't see them any in the movies, of course, but they were kind of like the top of the line new stuff, and we could see them with the wings open, which would be cool on the Victories, and maybe have them be like a really heavily focused missile boat variant, torpedo boat variant, that the Galactic Republic can use. So that was a really long-winded answer to those questions. This could be, based on how this is going, I still got, that's just the first one. This could be quite long, so we'll just let it ride. Just let it be a longer video than normal for these kind of introduction things, or you know what I'm saying. I lost my train of thought. Okay, moving on. Thank you, Ahsoka, for that question. That was a pretty loaded one. A lot of. I tend to chase rabbits, and you let me chase some rabbits on that one. So next one is from James Marr, also known as the Irish Mad Cat, which we were able to do a podcast about a month ago, talking about our top commanders for Rebellion and Imperials. And his question is, what's the closest game you ever played in Armada? Well, I'll tell you one that's pretty close on that list, and that's one I just had with Robbie a couple videos ago, where it came down to a 14-point spread. But that's not the closest one. I've had one, and I'm trying to remember who the opponent was. It was either Robbie, about a year and a half ago when we first started playing together, when we first met and started playing Armada games, or it might have been my friend Buster, who you guys have not seen on the channel yet. Hopefully I can get him on the channel soon. But I can't remember specifically who it was I played against, but I remember I was Imperials, they were Rebels. Obviously, that's all that there was. I was playing a Thronalist with a Star Destroyer, and going up against an Akbar list with a couple MC-30s and an MC-80, and it was came down to 3 points at the very end. It was extraordinarily close, but also a low-scoring game. Not a lot was destroyed. It was a mission objective. I can't remember the exact mission, but I remember there was objectives you picked up for points. But it came down to 3 points, and I wish I could be more specific, but the main thing I remember about it was that it was an extremely close game. I think it's gonna be hard to beat a 3-point spread, except for maybe getting a tie. That could be actually interesting, actually coming down with a tied game. Who knows, it might happen at some point. Okay, next we have Joe Askew, and he asks, what Armada mechanic annoys you the most? For example, obstruction rules for firing arcs, and which one do you love? I'll actually answer the second part first. The part of Armada I love the most is the planning ahead with ship commands. I love the overall grand strategy feel that Armada has, and a large part of that is because you have to plan ahead what you're doing, especially for large ships, and I love running larger ships, so I like having to have an overall strategy and plan in mind, and then have to plan ahead your moves, try to think about what your opponent's going to do planning ahead. You can't react as fast as you can say in like X-Wing or other tabletop games, unless you choose to play all command level 1 ships, which people do that a lot. But I enjoy playing the high command ships where you actually have to plan ahead and have an overall strategy and try to second guess and outguess your opponent ahead of time. The mechanic that annoys me the most, that's a good question. I don't know, I really think the Armada rules are really solid. It's one of the very few games that I play and enjoy, or that I follow on like bat reps, that has an extraordinarily solid rule set. And if I had to pick one, I think perhaps maybe the I don't know. I would probably say the perhaps maybe the ramming mechanic. I almost would find it interesting, although it would be almost impossible to employ, is that when you ram, movement actually happens on the table to more simulate that kind of interaction. And I know this is a bit of an equivocation because it doesn't really annoy me. I think the ramming mechanic's great. I think there needs to be consequences for running into ships. It makes you have to think about how you're flying. But I think it would be interesting if it was a little bit more representative of what's actually happening. So let's say Star Destroyer and a Starhawk ram each other. Whoever did the hitting might actually cause actual movement on the table. But of course, how do you measure that? How do you make that fair and legal? I mean, that could get really nitpicky. I think it would actually be interesting if they had ramming mechanics based on the size of ship. So if a Star Destroyer rams a Corvette, that's a really big ship hitting a small ship. Both taking one hull damage, I don't know. Maybe it should be the larger ship deals more damage to the smaller ship, or whoever does the ramming. Again, this is going to get really complicated and confusing. I don't think they should change it. I'm just trying to pull out an answer for the question. Now, unfortunately, I think you can just ignore everything I just said, because I'm just thinking in my head that would probably just make the game even worse. All those complicated mechanics for ramming. So I almost would have to say I don't know if there's one that really annoys me enough to where I'd say, man, I really hate that mechanic in Armada, because it could just be because I'm so used to the game now, and I enjoy the rule set so much that there's really not a rule that I'm like, man, I hate that rule. I wish they'd get rid of that rule. I'm really happy with the way the rules are now, and we're going to be some tweaks here and there. But overall, I think Star Wars Armada is one of the most solid games as far as rules composition is concerned that I've ever played, and I think it's in a really good spot. So, apologies, Joe, if that feels like too much of an equivocation there. I'd be interested to see what you guys think about what your mechanic that annoys you the most in Armada, since you can go and comment below if you guys have your opinions on that. Okay, so next we have Franz Odendahl. His question is, with the release of Clone Wars ships, do you reckon there will be a time, if not already here with the release of Wave 10, when the old Imps and Rebel ships become underpowered and will find themselves at a disadvantage mechanically wise? I'd like to hear what your take on it is. I'm not sure. I don't know if that's going to be the case, because we have a good understanding of everything that's coming in Wave 10 now. And beforehand, the concern was, can the Clone Wars ships actually hold up to the Rebel and Imperial ships? Because they have a much larger range, and more options, and more fleshed out rules. But as you've seen in some of my bat reps I've run in the past couple months with Clone Wars era versus Galactic Civil War era, I think they're pretty well balanced. What I find interesting with the Clone Wars stuff is they're going, instead of bringing in stuff that is really strong and powerful, let's say, like a Star Destroyer. I mean, it's still hard to beat the front arc of a Star Destroyer when it comes just to raw damage output, or a Starhawk, for example. They're going more towards, you could almost say complicated play, where it takes high skill, but high reward. They have a lot of token play, a lot of card interactions. We have to interact with this card, then this card, then this card, and then this happens, especially on the Separatist side. But if you can get all that to happen, it's going to be devastating for your opponent if you can get all those interactions to work. So I would say that the Separatists and the Republic are not new player friendly to master. I'd say they're new player friendly just to get in. I think any faction is new player friendly if you want to just start playing. But as far as to master the Separatists and the Republic, I think that they have a higher mastery level than the Rebellion or the Imperials. But if you get that mastery level, I think you could have an advantage, because all these interactions working together can lead to a higher power curve. But it would take a lot of practice to get there. Since I have not had a chance to play with the new stuff yet, the Wave 10 stuff yet. I would have to actually look and try it out and see the interactions and just play games. Especially since, I love playing Imperials. I don't know if, the Imperials, when it comes just to brute force, are still an extraordinarily powerful faction to play. That's easy to play for beginners if you want to play a faction that's strong. I would say Imperials are not super high skill to get good, as opposed to say like Rebels. Rebels, you need to have the high skill level if you want to be really good with Rebels, and same thing with Republic and Separatists. And I still think a really good Imperialist can not only hold its own, but would have an advantage over a really good Separatist or Republic list, even with the Wave 10 stuff. That's including that. Now in the future, we could see a problem where more and more stuff's coming out with the Clone Wars era, since they're the new faction, and maybe Imperials and Republic could stagnate. They might resolve that, and they might just do another a rules reference 2.0. Just have to redo some rules, do some point costs maybe in the future. That's a possibility in the future. I don't see it as happening anytime soon, because right now I think even with Wave 10 and with what might be in Wave 11, I still think Republic and Imperial play can hold up. Not even just hold up. I think Clone Wars era play is going to have the challenge in the short term and in the mid-term of keeping up with Rebellion and Imperial play, just because Rebellion and Imperial play has been there longer, and the roles and the options you have are more established. So maybe in a couple years, pardon me, one sec. Get a little dry throat here. So maybe in the future, in a couple years, we might have a problem where, just because that's what we're going to be seeing a lot, is Clone Wars releases, and not much really for the Galactic Republic, or for the Rebellion, or the Imperials. But for foreseeable future, I think it's going to be pretty well balanced, and I think it's actually going to be the opposite way. I think it's going to be Clone Wars is going to have trouble. It's going to have more challenge matching Imperial and Rebellion, because I think Imperial and Rebellion are easier to play and master. But once you can master the Clone Wars stuff, because all those interactions can lead to really powerful benefits if you get them to work, then I think you could have a really high power curve there, which I think is a good thing. I think high skill to master should have high reward, and I think that would be very satisfying to players once they can get those interactions to work. Let me know what you guys think. If you think that there might be a power creep, so to speak, that might be happening in the future with the Clone Wars stuff compared to Galactic Civil War. We'll see. Okay, next we have Maxwell Silver. What is your favorite squadron from Star Wars Armada? Well, I actually, if you've watched the Bat Rep right before this, I actually answered that question. But I've also answered this, kind of answered this question in the past, but we'll just go into more detail. It's the TIE Defender. This, if you're new to the channel, you might not know that. If you're not new to the channel, you know that. I love the TIE Defenders. I think they are overall probably one of the best squadrons in all of Armada. They're not just my favorite. I think they could be in the running for the best. Probably top 3 easy, I think. Trying not to be prejudiced there with my opinion. Merrick Steele is absolutely amazing as well, the named TIE Defender, especially combined. The dynamic duo Merrick Steele and Colonel Jendon is just a brutal combination. But TIE Defenders, especially when you power them up with flight controllers, and I love using them with Commander Woldar, keeping him nearby to give rerolls. Just the ability, 6 hull is a lot to chew through, doesn't matter who you're attacking. To get 2 blue and 2 black, and then with flight controllers another blue. So basically, when I run Defenders, I'm getting 3 blue, 2 black almost every time, which is insane. And usually with the reroll, because I'm usually careful to try to keep them in range of Commander Woldar. Not much can hold up to that. I mean, I've dropped 7 and 8 health stuff with just 2 Defenders before, opposing squadrons. They have the speed 5, so you can put them anywhere you want. A lot of times I'll just like place them to the, like a Gazanti and them to the side somewhere and during deployment, and then place my main fleet somewhere else just to try to outsmart, out-to-play my opponent. Because I don't care if they're way over there. They move speed 5. They can it takes only one turn to get them back in position. Or I can hold them behind my ships, keep them safe, and then do it as a counterpunch. They're just so, and I don't have to worry about them getting getting trapped, because they're not like a TIE fighter that can die like from a stiff breeze. They can take a beating. But they are expensive. They're 16 points. So there's counterplays to that. But definitely the TIE Defender. I also love Merrick Steel and doing the Colonel Jendon combo. It's I don't actually know if I've ever faced against TIE Defenders, because I don't know if I've ever played against someone who's trying out Imperials and have brought Defenders. But it's always interesting when I bring Defenders out. I can see Robbie and Social General Rob start sweating when they see Defenders on the board, because it makes them have to really rethink their squad strategy. So, TIE Defenders all the way, every day. Next we have Matt Soms. Since you are predominantly an Imperial player, what would you like to see released in a future wave for the Imperials? That is a great question, and it's one it'll be interesting to see where they go. This is kind of I have a multiple answers for this. One is where I think, I'm not the only one that has said this. Krabbeck has said this in the past as well. Many people have said this and predicted this. I'm pretty confident we're going to see a Venator for Imperials. Basically, a Venator Imperial Grey. Call it like maybe a Venator 3 or an Imperial class Venator or something, and just have it slightly different stats than the other Venators, but not as good as a Star Destroyer, like the bridge between an Imperial 1 and a Venator 2. I think we're going to see that. That's almost, I would almost put money on Vegas on that. But what I would really like to see, I would really love them to advance the timeline of the Galactic Civil War factions. Basically, the Empire going into maybe more like the Imperial Remnant, and then the Republic going into the Rebellion going into the New Republic. And I'm also going to answer on the Rebellion for this real quick. I would love to see the Nebula class Star Destroyer for the New Republic. That's one of my favorite ships of all. It is my favorite ship of all time in all of Star Wars. Fantastic ship design. I would love to see it on the table with really neat rules and stuff. I've seen a few on the Star Wars Armada forums of people getting 3D printed models. And they just look fantastic. And for the Empire, I would like to see maybe the I think it's the Paleon Star Destroyer. And speaking up to actually have Paleon as a commander, that would be absolutely fantastic. I would love to see the Paleon Star Destroyer with Paleon as a commander, because that would just make sense. And yeah, so I would love to see them actually advance the storyline. And they would have to go into the EU, because I mean, there's not really a lot of options as far as I'm concerned, good options when it comes to the sequel trilogy. But I'd love them to canonize more of the EU ships that happened after Endor for both the Republic, for the New Republic, and for the Galactic Empire Remnant, the Imperial Remnant, etc. So yeah, if my wish list would be for the Rebellion, get us that Nebula class Star Destroyer, that would be amazing, and then a Paleon class Star Destroyer with Paleon as a commander. That would be absolutely phenomenal. Next, we have Northern Hero. Is 3 salvos on a Starhawk too many for polite play? So that would be... I don't know if that would be too many. I think that would be really interesting. And because, obviously you have to have Krista Gate as your commander, and you pick Salvo as one of them. And then I forget which title it is. Actually, I'll look it up right now, real quick. Which is the title that gives you the Salvo? So that would be Concord. Oh, and Concord's a great title too, where you can actually spend defense tokens at speed 0. Yeah, I've run that one before. It's amazing. Do that with the gate and just have 3 salvos. I would definitely, I wouldn't just show up at your friend's house and say, "This is what I got. Got a Starhawk with a gate, 3 salvos." I wouldn't do that just out of the blue. I'll give a fair warning. It's like bringing a double onager list. You know, I have 2 onagers. I actually have 2 Starhawks too. I love those ships. I think they're awesome. And when I did my double onager list, I warned Social General Rob, let him know, hey, I'm bringing double onager. I want to try it out. I think if just give your friends a heads up, saying I'm bringing a Starhawk, and it's triple salvo. Not only that, it's the Concord title, so you might be seeing a tractor beam in play. The Magnite Crystal tractor beam might be putting you at 0. Triple salvo could be brutal. And actually, now that I think about that, I might actually... Social General Rob, when you watch this, we need to try that out with your Starhawk. Run a triple salvo Starhawk. Because that would really make the opponent, which would be me most likely, have to think about, do I want to shoot at this thing? Because no matter what I do, I'm getting salvoed back. Then put Whalix Ballistics on there so that you're getting a salvo back. You can spend your salvos like candy, get 1 back with Whalix. So that is a nasty Starhawk. I love it. I think would be a fantastic thing to play to really make your opponent think, do I even want, is it worth attacking? I'm going to pay a heavy price to go after this Starhawk. But again, I want to just show up at your friend's house. Just let him know you're bringing it so he can try to maybe bring a counter list or tailor his list to it so it's at least a fun game. So, but you guys might actually see that on the channel in the next couple weeks. I'll talk to Social General Rob, see if he wants to try that kind of Starhawk list out. Okay, we have Jurgen GDB. Do you think that Squadrons in Armada should have been a ship mod mechanic? For example, just like adding squads, etc., instead of cluttering the game board? And do you think that Squadrons add too much time management to the game? Personally, I'd like to see more ship combat than a Squadron game myself, and I also think that Squad should only be 10 to 15% of any build. So, Jurgen, this one unfortunately will have to be hard to disagree. And again, I'm biased. I love Squadron play. I love the Squadron mechanic in Armada. And I think if it would have just been like a ship mechanic or ship mod mechanic where it's like you simulate what the squads are doing, I might not have even gotten into Armada. One thing is that the main thing that attracted me to Armada was the large ship play in the grand strategy with large ships. The second thing that attracted me to it was actually running squads. And that's because when it comes to like military theory and what I enjoy, like when it comes to combat tactics, etc., I really like the World War II style carriers commanding wings and squadrons of fighters going off to attack ships in a distance. Then you have your support ships supporting that. And that's why I like squadron play in Armada, because it really helps simulate that. I like having a big command ship, Star Destroyer, obviously, with a bunch of squadrons that it launches and it sends out, and it's the mothership. So I like where it's at. I like the 1/3. I think 10 to 15 would be. I think it would be too small, and I really think it adds a lot to flavor squadron play. Yes, it does clutter the board, and I will say this, that squadron play is one of the hardest things to master in Armada, not only for strategy and tactics, but also to make it efficient so your games don't take forever. You can get 2 players that are playing heavy squad builds. It can take a long time if you both don't know what you're doing, but there are ways where you can play with friends, and I do this a lot just with filming, where I do like to solve my squads at once instead of doing the one at a time attack, one at a time attack. That's just for ease of filming for me, but also helps speed up the game as well. You just have to keep in mind that sometimes you might have to go back and redo something, so that can get more complicated as well. So maybe that's not the right answer. I think it just comes down with practice, and also comes down with style of preference with you and your friends, how you like to play. I think squadrons are good where they're at. I would not reduce it. I wouldn't increase it either, though. I think if you let it be more than 1/3, then I think it would become too much. But if it's less, it's just not enough to simulate, in Star Wars, it wasn't just big ships hammering at each other. Every single battle we've ever seen in Star Wars, I say every single, even the cartoons, had lots of fighters. It was that was why George Lucas did what he did when he made the first Star Wars. He wanted to simulate World War II ship and fighter combat in space, which is why ships and fighters behave like they do if they were inside a planet instead of actually how they would actually behave in space. It's not realistic space combat. It's World War II in space, which is what I love about it. I just like that style of military tactics and combat, etc. So, personally for me, I think squadrons are great. I think they're good where they're at 1/3. Don't increase, don't decrease. And I would just highly recommend to practice using squads, because if you can become good at squad play, it'll really up your game. And I also think it would also up your enjoyment level. It's really fun when you can get a good squadron command to go off, and it'd be really effective to complement your carrier that is activating them. Okay, so next we have Philip Vincent. I've got a couple questions. What made you decide to start the channel and get into content creation? Also, do you ever think you'll expand the breadth of content past Armada into other games? Love your channel, Ben. You've been putting out great stuff. Don't remember how I stumbled onto you, but I'm glad I did. Keep up the fantastic work. Well, thank you so much for the compliment, Philip, and thank you for watching. And I've actually been thinking about getting into this for a couple years. I just never pulled the trigger. And what got me into it is I still do, but not nearly as much as I did in the past, but for years watch bat reps all the time on YouTube. And there are two that I would watch. It would be Star Wars Armada bat reps, and it was, at the time, it was Masters of the Fleet. I don't know if you guys know them. They're out of Australia. Really fun bunch. They're not putting out as many videos now, but it's still a good channel, Masters of the Fleet. And of course, Krabick, when he used to do bat reps all the time, he doesn't do them as much anymore, obviously because of COVID. He probably, we'll see if he gets back into it. But then also, what I actually watch the most of bat reps is Warhammer 40k. And Warhammer 40k is one of my favorite. I really like, the game system is really good. It's got a lot of problems. That's a whole nother rabbit to chase, talking about our Warhammer 40k and its rule system and all that stuff. That'll be for another video. But I love the lore. It's one of my favorite sci-fi universes ever. It's not number one. Number one, Star Trek. I'm a Trekkie nerd at heart. I'm definitely a Trekkie. Original nerd is Trek. Star Trek will always be my favorite universe. But Warhammer 40k probably could be number 2. And I love watching 40k bat reps. Tabletop Tactics, Tabletop Titans, Scorpion 82, I think, is one. Play on 40k. There's a whole bunch of 40k bat rep channels, 40k lore channels, and I loved watching those. And every time I would watch them, I was like, you know what? I think I could do that. And I was between, do I want to do a 40k channel, or do I want to do Armada channel first? I went to go with Armada because I actually like the Armada game better. I really love Armada. It's one of my favorite games of all time. And it was a last-minute decision when we did that. My very first video, as you guys will go, if you want to check it out, first bat rep is Battle of Endor. It was a 1,200 point match. 1,200 points on both sides, and I just had my phone, which that's still what I still use just to film right now. I haven't gotten a camera yet. I'm still trying to they're expensive. I want to get a good one. But the camera on this phone is absolutely amazing. But at the time I didn't have a gimbal and didn't have proper editing software, didn't have graphics, so it's pretty low budget, so to speak. You know, it was insane for my first video to be a 1,200 point game. That was madness. But I really enjoyed it, and kind of just kept going. Just kept going with it. And I do want to expand to other content, and it probably will be 40k, but 40k is going to be a much smaller contingent, mainly because I only own one army. And that's because I'm not a painter. For those of you that don't know, 40k does not come painted. They actually don't even come assembled. 40k is also extremely expensive. Those of you that might think that Armada stuff is expensive, you have no idea. Warhammer 40k is, I think, comparable only to Magic the Gathering when it comes to the amount of money that you're going to throw down to play that game. And especially for someone like me who commissions people to paint for him, because I'm not a painter, I'm not a model assembler. I hate it. I don't even want to learn. It's not a skill I even want to try. So I've got one army, that's the Sisters of Battle, the Adeptus Sororitas, and fantastically painted by a studio out in Zaragoza, Spain. And I would like to get a game or two and because it's going to be smaller, it's because I only have one army, and with and it can become really stale. After a while, you're only seeing one army on my end playing. But Social General Rob and Robbie both play 40k as well, and it's also going to be a different format to try to film. It's not. I'd have to change how the style that I film, because the way I do it now, I don't think would work for a 40k battle report. And again, the 40k rules are so much more complicated. You could almost consider them to be a mess at the best of times, especially currently right now. There's endless FAQs and power creep that happens in 40k. Despite all that, I still love the game, love the setting, I love playing it. It'd be extremely casual and just once every blue moon, just because the lack of armies to feature. But that could be a preview for the future. That far future. It might not be until the summer, midsummer, where I decide to try a 40k bat rep with Robbie or Social General Rob, and then I'll also probably release some 40k introductory videos for those of you who are not familiar with 40k. So look forward to that in the future. And yeah, there might be some other games. There's some other board games I might be interested in, but I don't know how well they translate to a bat rep. I love Twilight Imperium. That actually is my favorite game of all time, Twilight Imperium 4th edition, but I don't know how well that would translate to a bat rep. Whenever we get together and have our big all-day gaming session to play a big, massive game of Twilight Imperium. Battletech. Actually, Battletech could work. It's a still miniatures game. I love Battletech. That was my first miniatures game. So now that I think about it, I might do some Battletech bat reps. So I love Battletech as well. So a long-winded answer to a simple question. And hopefully you guys, hopefully in the future, and I don't say hopefully, I will, it's just a matter of when, I will expand my channel to go beyond Armada and also beyond bat reps. I need to get more into I want to get more like lore discussion videos like this, where I just talking, giving you my thoughts. Do those with Social General Rob, where we can just talk about lore, more Ask Me Anythings, that kind of thing. So look forward to those in the future, in the next couple months. It's not going to be immediate future, but coming up probably in the summer. See some more expanded content on the channel beyond just bat reps. Okay, we have Mercier next. There are a number of in-person tournaments and events announced recently. With in-person play looking to be picking back up, will I be traveling to any of these events? So, nothing locally is happening for me. Unfortunately, Armada locally, even within a decent driving distance, is kind of dead in my area. Excuse me one more time. So, the only Armada competitive play I've ever done, we had one smaller tournament here like 4 years ago before I even owned anything, where I borrowed someone's stuff just to play. It was just a local little thing. A couple guys playing. The only tournament I've ever played in was Nationals at Gen Con in 2017. And that was 3 months after I had bought all my Armada stuff and got into it. And I got my butt handed to me my first match. But I learned quick. And almost won the second game, and then I actually won the third game. But we were both the last place players. We were both at the bottom tier. But that was a lot of fun. I love going to Gen Con. My Academy buddies, we like going there every year as our yearly reunion. We've been doing that since like 2007, 2008. I can't make it every year, but I try to make it as many years as I can. Unfortunately, I can't go this year because they moved the date last minute, and I have something that I cannot get out of that weekend, so I will not be going to Gen Con this year. But next year, I know that's like a year and a half away. I do plan on going to Gen Con, and hopefully by then, the Nationals that are held at Gen Con will be happening. So I would love to play in Nationals again, play in a tournament setting and get the whole Gen Con vibe going, and I'd love to try to film it. Of course, if my opponents are okay with it, because you don't get to pick who you play against. But I'll probably at least do recaps, that sort of thing. But that's a year and a half out. Since I can't go this year, I don't even think they're doing Nationals this year. But next year, 2022 Gen Con, hopefully they'll be able to have Nationals going. And hopefully I'll be able to schedule lamp where I can go and play in that. And I'm going to be keeping my eye out. If there's anything local, when I say local, I'm happy, I'm okay with driving even long distances. but it'd be like Dallas, Kansas City, St. Louis. Those would be like the locations that are easy drive distance for me, 6-7 hours, and that I wouldn't mind playing in a significant tournament in, or, but I have not seen anything. I would love to though. I do prefer casual play, but I like going to doing competitive play just to challenge myself and to try something new, to expand my horizons and try to expand my skill set. So I'm going to keep my eye open to see if anything comes up locally for me within a decent drive distance, and see if I can't, if something comes up, see if I can't make my way there, and at the very least give you guys kind of recaps of what's going on. So hopefully that does come up in the future, and on the outset, at the very least, Gen Con 2022, you guys can mark it on your calendar. A year and a half from now, I will be going to that and hopefully playing in the Nationals tournament there. Okay, we are now to our last question. Thank you guys for bearing with me. This is going much longer than I anticipated. And so we have Swim Fastful. I know you primarily play Imperial, but what are your top 3 ships for the Rebellion? That is a good question. I'm going to do this like a combination of top 3 favorite and top 3 what I think are actually the best, because they might not necessarily be the same thing. So we'll do a countdown. So I think number 3, I really love the Starhawk. I know that might be considered an OP answer, but I own 2. I think the Starhawk was just an awesome ship on the table. Just seeing it on the table is just intimidating, imposing. It's fun to play against. It's fun to play as. It's a fantastic model design. I love the Starhawk. And I think it's also just a great ship. Fantastic ship. And as you've seen in bat reps I played against Starhawks and won with the Starhawk, they're extremely difficult to take down. I wouldn't say impossible, but very close. You have to really focus a lot to take down a Starhawk. They're just a masterful board presence. Number 2, this one's going to be a personal favorite. I know it's not the best, but I love playing them as well. It's the Liberty MC-80s, the Battle Cruiser, Star Cruiser. When I was a kid, the Liberty was my favorite ship in all of Star Wars. When I first saw it for the first time as a kid, watching Return of the Jedi and the Battle of Endor, and I saw basically the Mon Calamari ship with wings, I just geeked out, freaked out completely. I love the Liberty class Mon Cal cruiser. I own 2 of those as well, just because I love the design. I know they're not the greatest, but I just love the way they look. I also know they're not they would not, if I were picking like a legitimate top 3 Rebellion ships, they would not be anywhere near the top 3 Rebellion ships, objectively. But I'm inserting a favorite here. So, love them. I love running 2 of them, despite their lack of maneuverability. But I just love the look of them. And now here's my objective. My objective number 1. This is not my favorite, but it's what I think is the best Rebel ship, and that's the CR-90. The CR-90 is so versatile. I think it's one of the best small ships in the game. I could even go so far as to say is the best small ship in the game, small base ship in the game. The TRC-90, basically CR-90 with turbo laser reroute circuits, is still a force to be reckoned with. Swarms of CR-90s are still a force to be reckoned with, especially with you put engine techs. Maybe you use, I think it's Nadine, where you can get maximum maneuverability out of them. So many commanders work with them. They are high skill. If you're not careful, you can see the end of Rogue One. It's happened against me several times where an opponent has stopped a CR-90 right in front of a Star Destroyer. Just they couldn't help it, and then I just one-shot it. But a high skill player playing CR-90s, they can be an extraordinary pain to pin down, especially as an Imperial player. And you would be surprised how much damage 2 or 3 CR-90s with turbo laser reroute circuits on them, how much damage they can do through a course of the game. They can shred an Imperial player if the Imperial player is not careful, and especially if the Rebel player knows what they're doing with CR-90s. So just for its sheer versatility its effect, its speed, maneuverability, the firepower for its size. It's so surprising. I think the CR90 probably is objectively the best Rebel ship in the game. And then I'm just going to do an honorable mention of the GR75. That's just any flotilla. Flotillas, I think, are just fantastic. It should be at the top of anybody's list when you're building a fleet. Just one flotilla can be a force multiplier. Okay, so that's all the questions. This is probably going to be close to almost approaching an hour, it looks like. So I do apologize for the length. If you guys have stopped watching, I fully understand. I was not expecting this to take this long. I do tend to ramble sometimes and chase rabbits and just start talking and just seeing how things go. But thank you for answering the questions, or asking the questions and responding. I love doing this engagement with you guys. I want to try to do more of this kind of engagement with you guys who have subscribed to the channel and are supporting the channel. Thank you so much for the views and the likes, subscribes, the comments, everything. And I will be doing one of these with Social General Rob, where you can ask me and Social General Rob questions. And then so I'll be putting out a video of that where you got to announce it, where you guys can ask questions. And then we'll then film a video where we'll have Rob and I sitting there discussing and talking about the answers. That'll probably be in May. We'll probably do one of these once a month, I think, and Ask Me Anything. And also, I didn't do a specific thing for the giveaway. I couldn't think of a good question to ask or things for you guys to comment on. So what I'm just gonna make this easy. I don't want to have a video where you can't enter for the giveaway. I want to make sure I keep myself consistent. So if you're still watching and if you made it through this entire MMA, this is how you guys can enter into the giveaway. Just respond in the comments about anything. I would say maybe try to keep it based on these questions. If you want to respond to the questions, have your opinions on the questions, just engage in the comments. And you can engage as many times as you want. Just one engagement for one entry. But just comment in the comments below, talking about the questions, my responses. Do you agree, disagree? Do you think I'm a moron on some of my answers? Do you think I'm a genius? You can call me a genius. My ego isn't big enough already. So, just talk about the questions and what your responses to some of the questions are. And any comment that you put in the comments for this video will be eligible to enter into the giveaway, or to give you another entry into the giveaway for the $50 store credit to Admiral Tater's Ship Shop for the month of April. So, once again, thank you guys for the engagement and for the interaction. And until next time, take it easy.